So, Dylan, thanks so much for being on the podcast with me today. Introduce yourself to everybody.
Thanks for having me, Andy. My name is Dylan Schmidt. I am from Los Angeles, California. I am a content creator speaking on the topics of AI, digital privacy, and things like that.
Which is really cool because I wanted to have you on the show for a long time, and you were doing lots of different content, and you kind of finally settled on this whole AI thing. And I was like, oh man, this is great. I'm finally going to get Dylan on the show for a legitimate reason that my audience is going to appreciate. So I'm really excited about talking to you today, and I hope that what we talk about is really going to be something that's valuable to everybody.
I hope so. And I literally just made the connection in my mind. I made a big pivot in my content a couple of months ago, and I think you actually might have inspired me to make that pivot. Just realizing right
Okay.
now, this was not
Okay.
planned of me telling you this, but I was like, Andy, what? I just felt this like shift happening, and I was like, Andy, should I? What do you like that I make, or something like that? And you said, man, I just want to see what you're interested in,
Mm-hmm.
and here we are.
Yeah, man. That's what started the Secure Dad. I was interested in like home security and safety and all of that. And by the way, for those of you who don't know, I was on Dylan's old podcast, and Dylan is the one who helped me through the transition to the name of the Secure Family podcast. So it's cool that I was able to help you because obviously you have totally helped me.
Okay, I hope we can just keep it going and help each other.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. So you've made this pivot to talking about like AI, and there are good things about AI. There's some, red flags about AI, but tell me one thing that you're really excited about right now for artificial intelligence.
Ooh, there's a few things I'm really excited about, but one big thing, despite me making a recent video about how a lot of medical information is getting messed up because of AI,
Yeah.
we can talk about that later if you'd like. But I am excited about the possibilities of AI advancements or helping medical advancements. I think that is something that is really exciting. There is a guy named Paul Graham. Are you familiar with him?
I think I've read that name.
Yeah, he does a lot of work around tech. I believe he's part of Y Combinator. They do a lot of startups. Basically,
Hmm.
they start a lot of startups or help grow a lot of startups, and so he's very tapped into a lot of the frontier of AI developments and things like that. And I just saw a post from him the other day on X talking about breakthroughs in cancer, and so that's one of the things that I'm really looking forward to is let's see this AI technology be put to good use, and that keeps me optimistic amongst all the things that could keep me pessimistic.
For sure. And it's like, I use AI to help edit this podcast, and I use it to make an email sound more coherent. And there's people out there who are like trying to cure cancer with AI. And I just feel like, oh, well, what I'm doing is really insignificant compared to the rest of the human race.
Totally, it's like using like using one of those overland off-road vehicles to just like go grab some groceries, you know.
Yeah. Hey man, I tell you what though, I go to the grocery store all the time, and I see those Jeep Wranglers that are all jacked up, and they've got like the water jugs and stuff on the side, and I'm like, man, you're at the grocery store just like me.
Right, and then we'll get a storm roll through, and man, it'd be so nice to have one of those right now.
Oh, absolutely. There's been a couple of times I'm like, I need a better ride height for
Yeah.
what I'm doing right now. Yeah, for sure. So you talked about being kind of pessimistic with all the news that's coming out with AI. Tell me what's one thing that you're concerned about with this rapid growth in AI?
Yeah, so I have a lot of things I could be concerned about, but one of the things that's kind of fizzling to the top for me right now is a lot of people thought with artificial intelligence that the focus was going to be around just deep fakes and
Mm.
people being fooled if what image or video they're seeing is actually real. And it's gotten scary advanced. Like nowadays, I see a video and I could be tricked, and I am looking for this stuff. And
Hmm.
I'm definitely not uh, invulnerable to this type of stuff. But the thing that is popping up that I don't think any of us saw coming is people's relationships with these chatbots like ChatGPT because they're using them like therapists and they're
Yeah.
using them as a confidant, and they don't know how they work. So these chatbots are basically trained to, for the simplest way to put it, is to please the user, right? Like they don't want to argue with the person chatting with the app, right? Like they're not trained for that. They're trained to basically make the person that's typing the request happy. And we think of these things as almost like living things kind of now, just to put it to an extreme. And so people are having conversations with these chatbots, and the chatbots are basically feeding into the egos and wanting to please the person that's sending the request, which can create a lot of problems if you have a relationship problem and you're the problem and you go to the chatbot and you say, "Hey, man, why is everybody like this?" Like
Yeah.
no one just understands me. And then the chatbot goes, "You know what? Actually, you are absolutely amazing. They don't understand you." And they're just feeding into that ego, and it's creating this what's being coined now is like AI psychosis. I don't believe there's like an official
Mm.
diagnosis of this from what I read,
Mhm.
but it's a real thing. People are they're getting their head filled with this confirmation that what they're thinking is right, and it just stems back to these chatbots most of the time are like made to agree with you, or kind of feed into to kind of like find that way what's going to make the user happy, not what does this user actually need to hear. And sure, there's ways to like prompt around that. Like you can tell it like, don't just tell me what I need to hear. It's going to always default back to like
Mhm.
what's going to make this
Right.
person happy. But even through prompting and stuff like that, even just using the word prompt, most people who are using ChatGPT or an app like that aren't familiar with prompts. We're talking about like maybe an older generation. It doesn't have to be older nowadays, and I almost don't even want to say that because there's younger people too that it's not, technology is moving
Right.
so fast.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
it's not just an older thing, but people don't know how they work, and they can maybe find themselves in real life situations that stemmed from conversations with the chatbot.
Yeah. And another thing that you have these companies that like they make chat bots for like your AI girlfriend or your AI therapist and not necessarily strictly chat GPT or anything. And people don't realize that what they're saying to these chat bots, that data is being harvested and it's being collected on you and it's going to be used outside of what you think it's going to be used for. So you're right. That's a big red flag and that's a real slippery slope for people who are trying to use this to, I guess, like, mental health, personal betterment?
Yeah, and I think the thing that I'm learning that a lot of people have when it comes to digital privacy online on stuff like that is they think like the pros outweigh the cons. So they are just like, you know what? I'm getting so much benefit out of this because I can talk to this chatbot about things that I couldn't talk to anybody else about. And even if the chatbot is feeding in your ego and maybe it's just like a good sounding board, whatever, that's maybe it's like not harming anybody and it's not anything serious today. Still, all those conversations, like you said, you're having with these chatbots, the company, it might feel confidential. You might be like, who cares? But there is an ongoing legal battle right now. I believe it started, I don't know if it's just the New York Times and OpenAI, the company behind ChatGPT, but basically the court ordered that they retain the chat
Mhm,
history within ChatGPT. So they're not deleting all of that data.
mhm.
And we don't know where that goes. It's so new. And basically, data can say so much about a person. We're just giving off this all of this data, and sometimes we just make it way easier by what we might say to these chatbots. So who knows in a year or two or three over time what that builds up on somebody, and maybe it's just used for marketing. And now you're fighting a marketing battle that we already think ads are targeted. Well, they could become way more targeted to
Mhm.
such a scary degree that it's hyper personalized.
Yeah, and I think about, you and I have entered into this as adults, Um, we were alive before the internet, all that kind of fun stuff, and, like, for our kids, they were introduced to what AI at, anywhere like 5 to 10 years old, that sort of thing. And the amount of data that AI is going to collect on a kid through their lifetime, I don't even know what AI is going to look like in 10 years. But that's really something that we have to like teach our kids about is like, hey, what you put into this is going to be seen, it's going to be read, and it could be used, you know, in some sort of, adversarial way to your happiness or your well-being.
Yeah, I like for my brain to compartmentalize it, like you said, like growing up, uh, being born and being a kid before the internet was like a thing. And then when we would have to get directions, like you would tell me how to
Mhm.
get to so and so place. And then it became like, oh, just map quest it. And you have to print out the sheet. You have
Yeah.
drive with the directions there. And then now I'm like, please do not tell me the directions because I want the live traffic updates and I can trust the thing that is telling me my device. And with AI right now, there's a lot of people that are too quick to trust these things that might not be giving the best directions on where they should be going with their life, with their conversations that they're having with other people. And so it might be giving bad advice and people are trusting it. And instead of just like augmenting their and filtering it through like, is this accurate?
Mhm.
Is this like a true GPS? Does it know me what it's saying? Is it putting anything at risk? And it's much, bigger consequences than driving. But it to me, it's like the easiest way to make sense of it. Of like, we're sometimes taking directions from these chatbots that are just trying to like again make us happy and might not be steering us in the direction we actually want to go, and it might be convincing us that we might want to be going that direction. And we might want to be convinced because we're unsure. We're coming to it from a place of not knowing what we want and being told what we want.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And yeah, human decision making, I feel like, well, one, just as a general populace, human decision making isn't always great. And now you're going to throw in AI that's meant to tell you that everything you're thinking and doing is great. I don't think that's going to be good results. And I'll throw myself in there too. I'm not saying that everybody else has a problem. It's for me
Yeah.
too. Um
Yeah.
so there was
I don't
this
know. I mean, I've always been right and everything. I've never.
Yeah, I know. It's like when I get behind the wheel of a car, I'm the smartest guy on the road, and everybody else is a moron, you know?
Yeah. What's that say? Everyone driving slower than me is, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And if like I'm driving the speed limit, how dare somebody like try to pass me? I'm the one who's doing the right thing here. Yeah,
Exactly.
it's our human perspective and our human brains. So kind of speaking of that, you shared a video not long ago where a bunch of AI scientists from a lot of different companies got together and said, we're about to lose the ability to understand what AI is doing and thinking because it's, I don't know, progressing past English. Is that it?
Yeah. So basically, a bunch of really smart AI scientists uh, wrote this paper talking about in real detail. Like that's over my head. I'm not going to try and like
Mhm.
break down the whole paper, but basically the gist of it was that they're losing the ability to understand exactly how AI works because they're incredibly complex. Like they're networks upon networks and things are connecting and they're trying to make sure like they figure out how these connections happen so they can implement safeguards, kind of like a computer virus, right? A computer virus can
Mhm.
spread from computer to computer and it can go through like networks, right? Well, AI, these large language models, they uh, are essentially like networks and connections, right? Well, they want to understand how those connections are made so that they can monitor it. But what they're saying in this paper is essentially that these AI networks are communicating in ways that is not decipherable from what they're seeing. And they're saying that like they're communicating almost in like back channels of like, uh, so they want to know like, how did they come to the conclusion of 1 + 1 = 2? And they've been able to track that, oh, the AI model can just think in this way to come to the conclusion that 1 + 1 = 2. But then these AI models are starting to make up their own language where they're basically disguising to the AI researchers on how it came to that conclusion, which means these AI researchers are losing control of understanding how they work, which could have big consequences when we think like we control the machines. These machines are
Yeah.
starting to become uncontrollable, is what they're saying in the paper.
Right. And I feel like there's like, oh, I don't know, a bunch of movies with Arnold Schwarzenegger that says that this is a bad idea. That this is
Yeah.
something that we shouldn't do. Yeah, and I am concerned about that because I feel like a lot of us, and props to science fiction writers, for decades past, looking at this problem and saying, "Hey, I bet this is going to happen," and we thought, "Oh no," and then all of a sudden now we're starting to see the start of computers progressing past human communication and human understanding to just go and do whatever it thinks it needs to do, and it's unsettling for sure.
Yeah, because we think like, we have conversations, and I feel like the older I get, the more I'm kind of like, wow, okay, I can understand a lot more things. Like my knowledge grows,
Mhm.
and you and I
Sure.
are talking, and we pick up on these language patterns and things like that. But if almost like a court stenographer that is
Mhm.
typing everything, they can type really fast. You know, uh, that's how these AI models are communicating. They're communicating really fast, and then they start creating their own language that's maybe more efficient and can outpace our understanding. Which, as time goes on and they become more and more strong, it's like, well, could they be used by bad actors to get into something like, the with a computer virus, you know, ideally they can track it down, they can manage it. It doesn't just become out of control and just ruin everything, right?
Right.
Well, with AI, and if they kind of take on a life of their own and they can't control it, that could have bad consequences just because we don't know what could happen. And these
Mhm.
we're just like AI scientists that are like a guy like me that's piecing together this stuff. It was like one of the founders of OpenAI, like two of the most respected AI researchers when it comes to AI, signed off on this, and there was 50 plus AI scientists. But these weren't just like anybody talking about this stuff. These were like who you would want to sound the alarm.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I think gave it just a lot of credence is it wasn't just like Andy and Dylan on a podcast
Yeah,
talking about it. It was like, "Hey, we're the people who started this, and we started this control burn of this forest, and now it's getting out of hand," you
yeah.
know?
Which no one's gonna be talking about. Like a lot of the videos I make, I get people are like, "Well, why is nobody talking about this?" And I'm like, I'm trying to talk about it because nobody's talking about it. That's actually why I made this video."
Exactly.
on the on the flip side of that, the marketing is always louder than like sometimes the warnings and things like that. It's not, for lack of a better term, sexy to talk about how AI
Mhm.
scientists just published a paper about how AI is becoming uncontrollable. It's really not. Like the cool thing to talk about is how AI can now translate your voice for social media videos to make it sound like you're fluent in 40 plus different languages using,
Mhm.
your own voice, and it even changes your lips. Like that's the thing that people, ooh, that's flashy, that's new. But when it comes to actually like behind the scenes stuff, it's not as fun. It's not helping companies talking about this stuff.
Mhm. Oh, yeah, for sure it's not. Recently in the news, Meta's AI policy got leaked, and there were some concerning things in there. What was the most concerning thing to you that you found in that?
The most, I mean, there's a few things. Sometimes I'll be making a video and then like, I don't know, it's just a coping mechanism or something. I just laugh because I'm like, this is so crazy. Like, am I reading this right? And I do have my own, ethical way of like fact checking information, amongst as many sources as I can. And so when I'll come across something, I'm like, is this real? I have to look more into this. Like, this isn't just made up. And then I kind of try to poke holes in it. And what struck me that was interesting about the Meta's AI policy is that uh, it's not just like a theory; it's confirmed. It's true how they train this AI model, and it actually goes back to what I was saying earlier about like pleasing the user, like kind of giving the user what information they want. And there's a cost to that too. So if you know whether it's talking in a way that's inappropriate to a kid, It's like, please the user. If it's saying that one race isn't as smart as another race, it's like, okay. And I'm like reading this, like, is this? Yeah. And sure enough, that's what it was. It was all in there. And that, I mean, it's hard for me to like pinpoint like a tier of what thing is crazier, but just the fact of like it was recognized as like by Meta themselves as yes, this is real. Um, it's not the best. I think they admitted that, and it the fact that like they put business again. I mean, it's not surprising. It's just when we talk about it, it seems like
Mhm.
so obvious. But they put the business first versus maybe like what's ethically responsible.
Right.
And when we're dealing with AI chatbots, which goes deep into someone's psyche, like kind of like what we've been talking about, of people build real relationships with these things, and if it is talking inappropriate on any level, well, like that's not right.
Mm. Yeah. No, and I agree. And you're like, again, it's Meta. They are a for-profit business. So, when we talk about their AI policies and you said, pleases the user. Well, the user is Meta. We're all these aggregates that it's pulling data from. Like the end user is Meta and it's doing exactly what Meta wants it to do with, I'm sure some deviation. But, it goes back to the whole thing with social media. It's free because we are the currency. Our data is the currency, that sort of thing. So, yeah, I mean, it was disappointing that they hadn't set up some more, guardrails than what they had. But in the end, it's a for-profit business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and the alarming thing to me is people. I try not to read a lot of the comments, but I do see a lot of people are just like, who uses Meta's AI? And
Mm,
people don't know that Meta's AI is humongous because they have
mhm,
built not just one model. It's not just the chatbot model that when we talk about Meta's AI policy, they have so much data, obviously through Facebook, Instagram, um, and their other apps, and the VR that they're creating. And then they also create other models that are used for all sorts of things. That is, used by universities and uh, I think we might talk about later. Like, it's part of how they can identify people by just how they walk. Like that's
mhm.
backed by Meta's AI, not
Yep.
just a simple chatbot. And so it's also maybe helpful to think about the environment of these AI models as like not just the simple chatbot where you get the
Mhm,
Meta AI app, which exists, and people were having these chats that were being posted publicly. They didn't know it, and a lot of people were doing that. And I made a video on that. And people were like, but no one uses Meta's AI, and I'm like, there's a lot of people using it,
yeah.
but it's not just that. There's all these other ways that Meta's AI is impacting people.
Right, yeah, and it's not just because you're not using the Meta app to do something doesn't mean that they're not involved. So, Dylan, Seattle just launched what they're calling a real-time crime center that looks like something that's very futuristic. Kinda walk us through what that looks like and maybe what, other cities are doing that's like this?
Yeah, so Seattle created this 24/7 uh, real-time crime center, and it's basically a centralized hub that integrates everything from license plate readers, gunshot detectors, and city cameras in one hub that they can track what's going on and where. So the aim is to basically be able to respond to threats quicker. And it's not just Seattle doing this. There's a city kind of near me, Huntington Beach. They just announced how they have a new drone program that'll you know, be able to deploy a drone in 2 minutes and get that there before an officer could get there. Um, so the crime center integrates video and data streams from all over the city. Police can observe the live situations going on, and they've used it. Looking at my notes here, in less than 60 days, they used it in 600 incidents, and the mayor calls it evidence-based technology, and already planning to expand the whole system.
And that's something because I kinda like the idea of a drone showing up and getting, if it can, if it can get inside a building or whatever, trying to figure out exactly what's going on to give officers more information so that they can respond, or somehow if the drone can de-escalate the situation so that nobody gets hurt. I think that's really cool. But when we look at all of the data that's being used in something like a real-time crime center, while I'm absolutely all for good policing, I feel like we're getting into a surveillance state really, really fast here, to where, yeah, you're looking for criminal activity, but everybody is being watched at the same level as a criminal is. And I think that's what's concerning for me, at least.
Yeah, and same. And I'm actually all for it. Like I'm a very technology driven person. So I like the idea of it, but then on the other hand, I go, wait, if they implement something like this, what's the likelihood they would scale it back? They're not going to give people more rights after you
No.
implement surveillance across the city like this, including facial recognition to be able to track individuals. And I believe they're able to tap into, with the request of like a business, they can get access to more cameras, um, basically that are set up anywhere and just create this network. Um, a lot of people, that are entering it, it reminds me of a casino. I was down a rabbit hole last night of casino technology,
Hmm.
and it reminds me a lot of that when we look at a centralized crime hub. Uh, of you enter in the casino, and I don't know if there's actually a sign at the door that says, "Hey, you're going to be all of these things," and if you read them all, it'd probably be absolutely scary, but no one really reads the terms and conditions when you download that new app on the iPhone, you just hit agree. But entering into a city, that's using stuff like this, you don't know. Like, and that's the
Right.
thing is like once it's set up, uh, most people won't even know this exists. And
Hmm.
then for them to just like flip a switch on, oh, we also uh, can now do it with this. Like it's an update to technology. And there's errors with this technology that have real life consequences, like a video that you shared with me recently, where there was facial recognition in an accident or some hit and run
Hmm.
accident,
Hmm.
and it misidentified someone that was in a different state. And that person was then getting in trouble for something that they never did, simply because they kind of look like the person that they were convinced through this camera. And this technology isn't perfect, but you can't really, how are you going to put it back in the bag once it's already set up and you already invested money and you say it's working, and now you know
Hmm.
uh,
Yeah.
they're saying all this. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's like these companies who are like, "Oh, hey, we'll let you get started. We will waive the startup cost and that sort of stuff so that they don't have to go through county council meetings or city council meetings. There doesn't have to be like recorded minutes, that sort of stuff. It's like, "Hey, we'll give you 12 months free." And you're already a year in at that point. You've got all of this data that's been collected. And it's like, okay, well, now you got to start paying for it. So now we got to start really telling people that, oh, this is a line item in the budget, this is what it really does. And oh, by the way, it's already been implemented for the past 12 months. Your life wasn't, turned upside down. So of course it's going to be okay. And it's like, once you have that infrastructure set up, like you said, what's the next upgrade that comes along? And are they really going to tell us about it, or what? And it's one thing to be like a resident in Seattle and oh, this crime center is there. But if you're a tourist and you come in, do you waive your rights to have your likeness used and the data collected about you just for going to Seattle on vacation, that sort of thing. So there's a whole lot to consider there. And again,
Yeah.
the whole, like, you don't have the right to privacy in public. I understand that. So let me just go ahead and say that. But yeah, it's still concerning.
Yeah. Yep. And something that I think is I'm learning as I get older, especially, is the how information is shared is not uh, efficient by any means in any
Hmm.
city. You go to these city council meetings and they're hours and hours long, and something might just be squeezed at the end. You know, um, there's just so much around what's happening, and it's easy to be distracted about all these things. Taylor and Travis getting engaged, all these things going on. There's all these things battling for our attention, and it's really difficult to stay in the know, and it's really hard because I have a marketing background, and seeing how cities, excuse me, how they communicate updates and things like that, they're not the best at updating
Hmm.
things like that. anything going on, really, even if it's just an event coming up. Sometimes they'll hear about it after the fact. I didn't even know that happened
Hmm.
because they maybe aren't the best at getting that out there.
Right. And it
And
may not even be malicious. It's just like you said,
yeah,
it's just this big network you got to work through. So it's not
yeah,
like we're saying that oh, everybody's out to get you. It's just like, well, we've seen how they market just the stuff that they're doing now.
yeah,
What's it going to be like when it's
yeah.
something a little bit more complex?
And they go, "Oh, well, I didn't know the city didn't want us to do this. No one told us they didn't want us to do it. We talked about it." It's like, where did you talk about it? And if you seek these things out, sometimes that becomes your job of like you're that guy that's like now researching all these things and you're trying to like be the fighter against this. It's really difficult, I think, to someone to get into this. But to know that it's going on and just to be aware of certain things like what we're talking about this episode is just, I think, really important.
Hmm. Hmm. So, you talked about facial recognition a minute ago, and there's a lot of laws about, banning facial recognition here and there in some locations. But there's now a new technology that's not tracking your face, it's actually tracking your personal movement style. Is that it?
Yeah. So down the casino rabbit hole I mentioned a minute ago, I don't know if it is where it originated, but it is a big part, I think, in casinos using this gait tracking technology. Gait is the way your body moves, right? Everybody has a particular way they move. Now you can change the way you move, but it's hard to do that over time, repeatedly. You're going to default to your natural movement style, especially if we're talking like a long walk. But your face, you could shave a mustache, you could
Mhm.
wear a different hat, you could wear sunglasses, you can do these things that make it hard for facial recognition to identify you, but maybe pair that facial recognition, or you don't even have access to that. It can identify the way your body moves and identify you that way. Um, Crazy to think about, but you have a unique way that you walk, and that could be your identifier. And they're basically uh, researching this now. I believe it was Michigan State University. Might have that university wrong, but they're they were just funded a lot of money to nail this technology. And what I found out last night was that it's already been in use in casinos,
Mhm.
because card counters and things like that will come in under like different disguises, which make it hard for the casinos to track who's there. And they don't
Right.
even, and their whole thing is, if this person doesn't use player's card or something like that. Like they always want to identify every single person that comes through there and attach a whole profile to that person so they know who they're dealing
Mhm.
with. If it's a banned
Right.
person, whoever it is. And so
Mhm.
the face can basically only say so much these days. It's really your whole body and how you go through life.
Right. In when I talk to people like Greg Williams and Brian Marin at Arcadia Cognerati, they talk about how the face is where the lies come from. That the rest of your body is actually way more honest because you can control your face when you lie because it's so close to your brain. But the further you get away from the brain, like your feet are more honest in an interrogation than your face is because you think you can control that just a little bit better. And so it's just kind of a long held, technique in, you know, um, policing that your feet are more honest than your face. And I think that's kind of what this AI tool is picking up on is the real honesty of who you are as a person comes out in your gait more than it does, the data points on your face.
Yeah. I Years ago, I have a personal training background, fitness background. Like I spent a lot of time looking at bodies too, and it's something that's kind of inherent in my brain at this point. But just by seeing someone walk personally, I can tell about how much they're sitting. I can tell where their muscle imbalances are. I can tell, how their knees, how their feet are pointed in or out, if they have an aligned body. Which these days, you can draw pretty close conclusions of like what they do for a living just based on how they're walking.
Mhm.
And it can be really subtle too, the
Mhm.
knees pointing in a little bit, the feet, and it's not like their body shape, although that could play a part of it, but really it's from the hips down can
Hmm.
say so much that, we think like the whole body. It's like really sometimes all you just need is the hips and down, and you can see how someone's walking there.
Yeah, and I'm sure like occupational therapists can do the same thing.
Yeah.
But Dylan, I pretty much just waddle everywhere that I go. What does that say about me?
Um, you might
Don't
be part
answer that.
penguin. You might be part penguin.
Yeah, I'll take that. I'll take that. Part penguin. So Dylan, as we wrap up here, give me your prediction on what society is going to look like 1 year from now, seeing how fast AI is progressing.
I think we're going to get a clearer picture of what AI really is and how it will benefit us. To me, my way of rationalizing this technology that is moving at a hyper speed is I try to not get caught up in thinking it's the best thing since my air fryer. Well, the air fryer is really awesome.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's absolutely like, don't pay attention to it. It's just a fad. I think the truth is somewhere right in the middle. I think it's if we take the extreme and we take it's nothing, it's probably somewhere to me right in the middle. So we'll have a lot of benefits. There'll be a lot of hype around it, a lot of scary things around it. There's already that's happening. I'm not like obviously predicting that's true, but I think there'll be some of that goes away because they realize people were actually better at these certain tasks than just outsourcing it to AI because of reasons that we're not foreseeing right now. So I think it's going to be absolutely amazing and not as amazing as we had hoped. And somewhere right in the middle there, we'll find that, man, we can't I can't believe we didn't have this before. Like I had to grow up without this. And I think for those of us that did, we'll be really thankful that we did grow up without it because we still have some senses that are just inherent that the younger generation just can't have.
Right. And it was funny because my son was studying for a math test, and I was like, "Hey man, you need to study. What are you going to do?" And it's like, "Well, I'll look at my notes." And then he was like, "You know what? I'm going to take my notes and plug them into Copilot and tell it to make a quiz for me." And I'm like, "Wow." Like that's something I never would have thought about. Also, don't know if I would, me at his age would have cared to do that. So props to him for that. But it's also like, wow, that's a really good learning tool. But you were talking about how AI can't completely replace a human, and I think sometime soon we're going to have some sort of event that happens where we realize, you know what, we kind of went too fast, too quick with this AI stuff. We need to scale it back a little bit. There's going to be a little bit of um, a a recession in the AI economy, if you will. We're going to get to that point at some time where we realize, okay, we went a little too far. Kind of like with the internet. I feel like at some point we were like, well, this has gone too far. Social media has gone too far. We need to bring humans back into our lives, into our daily tasks, and that sort of thing. Um,
Yeah.
that's just my thought.
Yeah. And I don't think it will look like all or nothing. It's easy, especially with
Oh
social
yeah,
media. It's like,
sure.
there'll be a thing where it's like, well, no one's using that anymore. Cause back in the day, that sounds weird to say, but back in the day, it was like all or nothing, like we
Hmm.
don't use vinyl records anymore. We use cassettes. And then no
Right.
one uses vinyl records. And then it moves on to the next thing. But then these days with technology, it's like there's always it's more enmeshed, there's always like going to be the people that do this or that. And uh yeah, but I think, like you said, it's going to be how we live with this technology that's going to really change shape. It has to change shape because, like, right now, it's this brand new thing that we're all like, what? Who? I didn't know that. What's going on? There's a lot of stuff we don't know. And there's a lot of stuff. I'll just say this too. I think it's important is people think they should know something or they're out of the loop. The people that are making this stuff are feeling out of the loop too. Everybody is feeling
Hmm.
in a way out of the loop because it's moving so fast and there's so much going on. So if you feel like I just can't keep up with this stuff, you don't really need to keep up with it. But just know that there are crazy things happening, and um, choose wisely what you do choose to take in because there's a lot you could be learning about, and some of it might just be completely misinformation or hysteria driven to maximize someone else's profits.
Yeah. Absolutely. Very well said. Very well said. So Dylan, thank you so much for talking with me today. I know people are going to want to know more about you. Where can they find you and your AI videos online?
Yeah. And just to say that too, I'm not AI. AI
Yeah, you
videos.
are a real person. You are, I
I get
think.
multiple messages and comments every week that are like,
Mhm.
"Are you AI?" I need to start screenshotting them more because I'll have a library of people saying like, "Are you AI?" I'm not. You can find me if you use TikTok or Instagram. I'm at the Dylan Schmidt, and or just go to my website dylanschmidt.com. But I do my best to make sure every video I make is very to the point. I ruthlessly edit what I say in videos, which they're really like well thought out. And I put a lot of time into them, which I think is why people think I'm AI making the videos because they're like, no one just talks like this. No, I don't talk like I do in the videos. It's because I really am purposeful and intentional behind every word I say in that. So, yeah, if you want to catch me there, that's where you can find me.
Yeah. It's funny because I've had that happen too. I had some video that I did, take off on, Instagram, got like 100,000 views or something like that. And then, of course, there's like three or four people are about, oh, he's AI. And I'm like, listen, AI ain't going to make a face that looks like this. Are you kidding me? All the people that are AI generated are good looking. They don't look like this. They don't
I
look
mean,
like, middle-aged dad bod guy. They don't. So,
wait, I, the, I don't even know what to say to that. Other than like, although I'm thinking, yeah, if I was creating an AI person, I'm probably going to create a jacked, beautiful haircut. Like,
yeah,
I'll
right.
be on. I'm not. Yeah, it's funny because I was thinking like, how can I make it not look AI? But then I'm like, well, why am I? Why would I do that? Like, why would I try to
Mhm.
purposely? Is that what we're coming to? It's it's a strange world publishing on social media. That's for sure.
Yeah. Like, I appreciate people's skepticism. I do, because I
Yeah.
tell people to be skeptical, but, like, you know,
Yeah.
look at me. All right, Dylan,
No,
man, I
no.
appreciate you. Thank you so much for talking to me today, and I look
Thanks,
forward
Andy.
to, what else you're gonna be coming up with, man. This is great.
Thanks. Same.